Why the corn syrup? Because it is composed of glucose, which is a kind of sugar, but it is not the same kind of sugar as sucrose, which is what the white table sugar is made of. So it can't take part in any of the white sugar's crystallization games. As for the chocolate and the butter and the cream, sure, they're going to bring a lot of flavor to the fudge, but they will also affect the final texture. Now, when this new and, improved solution gets hot and bothered, all these alien molecules are going to get in between the sucrose and prevent them from committing premature crystallization. And that, for fudge at least, is a good thing. Stir this mixture over medium heat until the chocolate and all the sugar is dissolved. When you are sure that all the sugar is dissolved, increase the heat and bring to a boil. Time to contemplate the fudge's final resting place. You're going to need an 8 by 8 inch glass baking dish, a piece of parchment paper that's at least 2 inches bigger all the way around, and some unsalted butter. Liberally lube the dish and your spatula, and then take a paring knife and slit the corners of the parchment paper thusly. That way, you'll be able to put the parchment directly into the pan and overlap the sides for a snug fit. Neat trick, huh? When the mixture reaches a full boil, reduce the heat to medium-low and slap on a lid for 3 minutes. Why bother? Again, this is the point in time when crystallization could occur on the side of the vessel. We don't want that. The lid will cause condensation. Condensation will keep the walls clean. 3 minutes. Go ahead and attach your candy thermometer. If your thermometer happens to have an alarm on it, set it for the softball stage, or if you can pick a temperature, say 234 degrees, unless, of course, it's raining. Behold, kind of gooey. Wasn't like that yesterday. Of course, the sponge wasn't dry yesterday. See, the problem is sugar is hygroscopic. It can and will suck water right out of the air. In this case, enough was quaffed to actually dissolve some of the crystals I worked so hard to make. The rule, if you have to make fudge in high humidity, you should compensate by cooking your syrup a few degrees higher than what the recipe calls for. Sure, the texture may seem a little on the grainy side at first, but it'll soften up in a day or two. As soon as the mixture hits 234, turn off the heat. Just turn it off and leave the pot alone. Sure, it's going to continue to get a little hotter, but then it's going to start cooling down. And we want it to cool down to 110 degrees. Why? Why?
Well, if you shake it or stir it or do anything while it's really hot, a few crystals will form and they'll grow and grow and grow, and your fudge will be grainy. But if you just let it sit perfectly still, as it cools, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And then your little sucrose molecules, they can't bounce all over the place. They have to stay right in the neighborhood. So they're going to make little baby crystals. So if you just let it sit perfectly still and stir like crazy, you'll get thousands of baby crystals at once.
Okay, so if I stir now, I get really big crystals. If I stir it when it's cool, stir like crazy, I get little bitty crystals.
That's right.
Got it.
You better put some butter on right now. It'll
What?
keep it from drying off on the surface.
Well, we have attained 110 degrees. Now, it is time to make the crystals. Ooh, nice idea, but no. A mixer would work too much air into the fudge, and that would ruin the texture. This, I'm afraid, is a job for a good, old-fashioned wooden spoon. Wow, this is kind of hard to do and talk at the same time. Shirley, could you take over for me here?
Sure. Now, the faster you beat, the finer the crystals are going to be. And now watch it, because when that shine goes to a sort of a matte finish, that means it's getting close. You can slow down. But now you want to test it, do a blob, and if it falls in a clump, it's thick enough, and it's time to put it in the pan. Here's the time to add vanilla, too. And if you want to add nuts, now's the time. Alton, roasted nuts. I have to keep an eye on him all the time.
The one thing Shirley didn't mention is that once the nuts are in, the mixture is going to cool down very, very quickly and start to set up. So get it in the pan fast. And no, if it sets up in the pan, you can't just heat it up again to loosen it. You'll have to eat it out of the pot. There we go. I'll just smooth it with a silicone spatula. Don't try doing this with the wooden spoon. It'll be a mess. There we go. Now, let this cool down for 2 hours before you attempt to cut and consume. And whatever you do, don't put it in there. It's too wet in there for this kind of fudge. If you've ever made one of the many fudge recipes featured on packages of baker's chocolate or cans of condensed milk, odds are good you've employed the microwave. Now, how can you possibly make decent fudge in a microwave? You can't. But you can make a darn nice fudge-like candy. And what's even better is that since it steers clear of the cooktop, kids, you can make it all by yourselves, if Mom and Dad say it's okay. Now, the software. Start by cutting up 2 sticks of butter, unsalted, and add to that a cup of peanut butter. This is a microwave-safe bowl, of course. There we go. Smooth peanut butter. And I cover this with plastic wrap, poke a couple of holes for steam, and microwave on high for 2 minutes. Now, I know there's a good bit of fat in there, more than you would ever have in a stovetop recipe, but since we're not going to be producing a syrup, we still need a viscous liquid for those crystals to suspend in. In this case, it's going to be fat. It is going to taste real good, though. When last we spoke, we had combined 1 cup of smooth peanut butter with 1 cup of unsalted butter, covered it, and microwaved it on high for 2 minutes. Now, carefully remove the plastic wrap, just enough to get your spoon in there. Of course, if you poked holes in the top of the plastic, there shouldn't be much steam. Give it a good stir to thoroughly combine those 2 ingredients. Then recover it with the plastic and slide it carefully right back into the microwave for another 2 minutes of cooking on high. Now, remember, this will be hot, kids, so properly protect your digits. Now, we add the rest of the ingredients after carefully removing the plastic. There's still going to be some steam. There we go. First, we have 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 16 ounces of instant seed crystals, otherwise known as powdered sugar. Now keep stirring until this mixture loses its luster and takes on a decidedly dull appearance. After a while, it's going to get really hard to stir, and forget that. There. Now, you're going to need a baking dish prepared exactly as for our chocolate fudge earlier on. Just kind of scoop this in. Sometimes I like to smooth the top with a metal spatula. You don't have to. There. Now, this needs to be stored in the refrigerator because it's got a looser consistency. You know, it won't stay solid any other way. But before you insert this, take out a little insurance policy against refrigerator funk. It's a piece of wax paper right on top. Fold over those edges. There. hope we've given you the confidence and the drive to become your very own Candyman. Fudge is just the beginning, of course. Once you get used to working with thermometers and syrups and such, lollipops, toffee, pralines, even better cake frosting are right around the corner. The corner on a block, on a street, in a town that we call Leeds. Thanks. Time.